I am Aisha Tanvir of degree final year. Today, I will be discussing the topic juvenile justice. So, if as I hope it is visible. So, in this session, the topics of discussion would include why is it in news, scope and relevance of the topic, legislations related to juveniles, child abuse like POXO Act, provisions, challenges, etc., etc. And in the end, we will also discuss some questions as well. So let's get started. First of all, why is it in news? It is because recently Parliament has passed Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Amendment Bill. And if we see the scope and relevance of the topic, as in prelims, it is a part of current affairs, we can expect a question in near coming future prelims exams or and in Indian polity and governance, the questions can be asked based on the recent amendments, or like what amendments were made under which constitution act, like that. So it is important in this aspect as well. So it is also seen in the social development topics. I mean, the question can be expected in this topic as well. So while coming to mains, as it is more a social like topic, so there is a scope of asking question under GS1 society and in GS2 polity and governance, obviously. So since the beginning of the topic, I have been referring juveniles. So first of all, who is called as juvenile? So according to Indian Constitution and Indian law, any person who has not completed 18th year of their age is referred to as juvenile. That means any person under 18 on the day of offense or when he or her came in conflict with the law is treated as juvenile. Yeah. So now let us see the legislations related to juveniles. The first law in India enacted about juveniles was the Apprentice Act in 1850. This was related to children in conflict with law. In this act, the law allowed the courts to treat children who had committed petty crimes. Like petty crimes, examples is theft. So what the law has told is, whoever like the child commits the petty crimes, he should be treated as apprentice instead of sending him or her to jail. That means, like, what is the meaning of apprentice is the person who works for lower wages than the actual wages. Uh, it was because, according to Indian Penal Code, Section 82 and 83, it was mentioned that nothing is considered as offense which is done by a child. Hence, according to the law, according to law, all the people who are under 18 will be applicable to this. So, if that means if they commit any kind of crime, they would not be sent to jail. Okay. So then in 1960, the Children Act was passed. To provide the care, maintenance, protection, welfare, education, and training of the neglected children. Remember, it was the first time protection for the children was discussed. And then later in 1986, the first central law was enacted, that is Juvenile Justice Act. It was a first uniform law for the country. Now, further in the year 1992, the government has ratified the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. This was the time where India felt it is an appropriate time to have a law. Like, it felt the previous laws were not matching the standards of the convention which it had signed. So it felt that they should enact a new law which matches the standards of that convention, that is UN Convention on Rights of the Child. So that is the reason the previous act, that is the 1986 Act, was amended, and Juvenile Delinquency Law and the Juvenile Justice Act was enacted in the year 2000. So, however, there were some challenges in the act, and hence the amendments were also made accordingly in the year 2006 and 2011. But still, those were not sufficient. Like, as you remember, after the Delhi gang rape, that is the Nirbhaya case, a public outraged for the new legislations. So, and so did the government. So, hence, in 2015, uh, the previous act was replaced. I'm stressing here that is it was replaced. That means the act which was enacted in 2000 was not amended again as it was done in 2006 and 11. It was scrapped, and the new act in the 2015, a new act, that is Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act, was enacted. It has corrected the flaws in the previous act by making juvenile justice system more responsive to the changing circumstances of the society. Yet, Yet in 2021, the Ministry of Women and Child Development has announced for the amendment of this act. So the question here comes is why? Why and what are the reasons for the amendment? So if we look closely to the report given by the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, that is NCPCR, which was given in 2020, says that more than 90% of childcare institutions are run by NGOs. That means like nearly like 10 or less than 10% institutions were supported by government, and 39% of childcare institutions were not registered at all. See, if registration is not there, that means the transparency is lacking there. So, and the other reason is post-COVID effects, like that is pandemic effect, like in COVID-19, that is in this one and a half year, the death toll was high in India. Unfortunately, many children lost their parents, like either of the parents or both. And many people came forward for adopting orphans. See, when this thing happened, like when the death toll raised, many children were becoming orphans. So what happened is a trend was started that all big pockets or whoever is really interested to take over to take care of the children, they were coming forward in the form of adoption. So what happens, like what is a possible case here? The guardians who used to take care of the children, if they have really lost their source of income due to this pandemic, or even if they are greedy about the money which they get after the adoption of the child, so considering all these cases, what happens is many children would end up in like organized crimes or in trafficking, begging, which is a matter of serious concern. As I don't remember the name of the movie, where you can see many children like who will be begging on the roads. When they were asked what the reason, they were told, they say that they were purposefully made handicapped, or they were damaging their organs just to get them under this physically handicapped category, and so that those people will beg and get money for those their leaders. So this is, which is actually a crime. Next is poor facilities of children, like poor facilities of child care institutions, which include 3/5 of childcare institutions have no toilet. 1/10 of them have no drinking water, which is actually a basic need. And 15% of homes do not have provisions for separate beds or diet plans. So you can imagine how worse was the situation. So, and moreover, for many children, like many childcare institutions, rehabilitation of children is not a priority at all. That is, they get children, they keep with them, then they show that they're taking care of them just to enjoy the funds. So people are really bad, and so there was a reason for the amendment of this act. And the other reason is given by Ministry of Women and Child Development, that is to ensure speedy trials and increased protection of children. See, protection should be given, because in the 2015 act, because of the Nirbhaya case, the law was made stringent in 2015 for the juveniles. So in this, after a pandemic, there is a chance they might be in threat, children might be in threat. So that is the reason it was discussed to provide them more protection, that is increased protection of children at the district level. Here the district level is mentioned because more responsibilities were given to district magistrates. and also to speed up the process of adoption in the country with checks and balances. With checks and balances in the sense that is to monitor the process of adoption, that is who is coming forward to adopt the child, and what like his background and all. So that will be considered here, and therefore this amendment was seen as need of the hour, and it was passed in both the houses, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So okay, let us see what are child care institutions. Okay, a child care institution, as defined under the Juvenile Justice Act 2015, means children home, open shelter, observation home, special home, a place of safety, specialized adoption agency, and a fit facility recognized under the Act for providing care and protection of children who are in need. Okay, yes, this sounds very lengthy because it is the actual definition given by like mentioned in that act. So to simplify it, it is childcare institution is that which provides shelter for the children. To simplify the definition, that means what actually childcare institution is. It is a place where children are provided shelter and they're taken care of and given protection who are really in need of that. Okay, so let us see what like who can stay in childcare institutions. That means who will be staying there. That includes the different categories of children who reside in childcare institutions are children who are orphan, abandoned, surrendered, sexually abused, victims of child pornography, trafficked for domestic work, trafficked for labor, trafficked for commercial sexual exploitation, victims of child marriage, and affected or infected by AIDS, and victims of natural as well as man made disasters, and children who are homeless, missing, or mentally or physically challenged. All these children would be eligible to stay in the childcare homes. Like these are the children who are vulnerable, like they need care, so they will be admitted in this childcare institutions. So, what will be the facilities provided to them who reside in childcare institutions are that is individual bedding, and like obviously there will be people who are infected with AIDS also, so they cannot be left to sleep like however they want, like with a close proximity. So individual bedding should be there, proper nutrition, diet, and toys, hygienic like hygiene food and all, sufficient water, health checkups, educational facilities based on the age and special needs of the child. All the basic needs will be provided. Okay, and then proper environment for mentally challenged people will also be provided. Okay, uh, recently the Ministry of Women and Child Development released a report mapping of child care institutions under the Juvenile Justice Act 2015. Okay, the report consists of what is the report about means it is about the findings of the survey conducted by Childline India Foundation and National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, that is NCPCR, of like they have conducted a survey on nearly 9,500 childcare institutions in the country. Okay, so what did they find out? The detailed study says that like it has mentioned mostly the critical component of the juvenile justice system across the country. So let us see what are the challenges associated with it. First is lack of human resources. There is a huge shortage of adequate staff, both as per the norms of the Act and as per the sanction across the country. So, I mean, across the country of the childcare homes. And poor physical infrastructure. Like there is lack of security measures such as boundary wall, fencing, and a strong structure to ensure the safety of the children and staff within the premises. And also, privacy in toilets and bathing areas is lacking. In some childcare institutions, though, bathrooms are not even available for children exclusively. Um, next, the next challenge is there is no financial transparency. That is, many childcare institutions are like they're just running like naam ke vaste. They're not maintaining any records and all. So that is financial records should be maintained for transparency, right? So but here in this case they are not maintaining, many of them are not maintaining the documented financial records. And also within 1 year like probably last year 2020, Ministry of Women and Child Development had shut down nearly 500 childcare institutions as they were not sticking to the norms, hence they were closed. And also the other concern is there are no proper facilities in the rehabilitation homes. uh, you can relate it with in the movie Master movie, where those people, the children will be living like, right, see, that is the rehabilitation home where remember, that is the thing. Like, it was the case, a pinch of reality was shown in that film, like how people will be treated and the how irresponsible that staff would be there. But still in reality, the case is a bit more worse than the thing which we have seen in that movie. So these challenges were all taken into consideration, and they were amended in this 2021 bill. Okay, so now let us know about what is child abuse. Okay, the types of child abuse include physical abuse, sexual abuse, psychological maltreatment, medical neglect, etc. Okay, so as you can see, bullying also comes under abuse. So, for this sexual child abuse to be stopped, a law was enacted in 2012, that is Protection of Children from Sexual Offences, that is POCSO Act. This is an act to protect children from offences of sexual assault, sexual harassment, and pornography, and provide for establishment of special courts for trial of such offences. Like, uh, obviously, juvenile court should be there, and people who are affected, like 18 plus candidates, at least they can speak out what, like if they are sexually assaulted, at least they can speak out what had happened to them and all in open court, like in the court openly. But these juveniles or the children who have no idea what actually is happening, like what actually has happened with them, or they'll be in that situation, they cannot explain what has happened. So they're provided with the special codes, and they will be even taken care. See, I'll mention it. See, this act also safeguards the interests of the child at every stage of the judicial process. That is, by incorporating child-friendly mechanism. That is, because none of them, like there will be some judicial terms, and we have to use that particular terms when we'll be in the court, while a case is going on. So we cannot talk in vague terms or in a layman language. This has happened with me. So because these children should be provided with the officials, that is judicial officials, in the process during the judicial process. So for that, they go with a child friendly mechanism from the reporting and the during the whole judicial process until the child feels safe. So the silent features of POCSO Act are, it makes the reporting of abuse mandatory, because the child or the victim should not be quiet. They have to speak up. They have to tell what has happened. They should report about the abuse. It is mandatory. It has made it mandatory, and it makes the recording of the sexual abuse mandatory. It should be recorded, and it lists all known types of sexual offenses toward minors. Like, it is the act especially for minors, that is juveniles. So it lists down all known types of sexual offenses towards minors. Okay, for the offenses under POCSO Act, there is, see, if any offense which is registered or filed under POCSO Act, there is no provision for bail. That means it proves that offenses under this act are non-bailable, and that means if someone is like normal, in normal case, if the case is filed on Friday, like people in mostly, okay, this is also seen in movies, like if the accused is taken up or on Friday, so there is no chance of getting bail because due to the judicial holidays. So these offenses are non-bailable, and who would take care of, I mean, who would take in charge of these offenses are the IPS officers, so designated, shall ensure that investigation of the cases arising under the POCSO Act are conducted by the officers who are trained, like they should be trained in juvenile justice principles. Okay, now let us take a look at the data given by National Crime Records Bureau about child abuse. The number of child abuse cases registered is steadily increasing year by year. It is also says that 20% of children are sexually abused before the age of 8. Like, no mercy at all. That is, the children who are below 8 years are there are more chances for them to be sexually abused, and it is 94 to 95% probable case that um, the children are abused by a family member or someone they trust. Recently, to quote an example, I have seen an Instagram post mentioning about a Bangladeshi short film titled Janovar, which was based on real incidents that have occurred in Dhaka, Bangladesh. So, where what happened is a woman, along with her three children, were brutally raped and murdered. And it was found that all the accused, like five were there, five people, five men, they were familiar, they were known, those are the known people to the victims. That means like the people like the rickshaw puller, vegetable vendor, plumber, etc. So this is a case. Okay, see, 95% of the cases are uh, like done by the someone the children trust. So this is not a good scenario. So hence, all such incidents like within Indian territory must be reported to POCSO for their limitation. Okay, so moving on to the provisions of the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Bill. I mean, the topic, today's topic. So, first provision is additional functions were allotted to district magistrate. That means, what are those additional functions? Let's see. First is supervising the district child protection unit. uh, as I mentioned earlier, I have told that district level care will be taken. That is this. That means district level care will be taken by the district magistrates of the child protection units, and the district magistrate also will be conducting a quarterly review of the functioning of the child welfare committees. Okay, and the district magistrate, along with an additional district magistrate, will perform duties related to adoptions. See, previously it was done by civil courts. Civil courts, if people would come to childcare institutions, if they want to adopt someone, they would request them, and then this request would be forwarded to civil courts. Now all this process is transferred under district magistrate. Now, uh, if the district magistrate approves the adoption process will be continued. And then this amendment, this amendment has also redefined the criteria for child welfare committees. That is, previously there was no criteria who are referred, like the people who are working in child welfare committees, who should be there and who should not be there. Previously there was no criteria, proper criteria. So this bill has added certain criteria for a person who is ineligible to be a member of child welfare committees. See, here eligible criteria, in the sense they have clearly mentioned that which person is ineligible to be a member of child welfare committee. Okay, and this bill has cleared the ambiguity. That is, previously there was a confusion between serious offenses or heinous offenses or petty offenses. So in this it has cleared by stating that serious offenses will also include offenses for which maximum punishment is imprisonment of more than 7 years, and minimum punishment is not prescribed or may be less than 7 years. Okay, what does it mean? It means, actually, first of all, the serious offenses means the offenses whose punishment was between 3 to 7 years. Okay, for any offense committed by the child, or for any offense whose punishment is 3 to 7 years, that offense would be referred to as serious offense. But from this from this amendment, what happening is the maximum punishment for the serious offense is 7 years. That means any offense whose maximum of punishment of imprisonment is 7 years is now considered a serious offense only. So this is a point of confusion. So there is a chance of a question to be asked in this area. So there should be a minimum, like Let me make it clear. Serious offenses are those offenses whose previously, okay, whose punishment of imprisonment was 3 to 7 years. Okay, but now after this amendment, any offense whose punishment is maximum punishment is more than 7 years, those all offenses were previously not considered as serious offenses. But after this amendment, these are all considered as serious offenses. Okay, got it. Uh, and next, the present act, that is 2015 act, it provides that any offense which is punishable with imprisonment between 3 to 7 years was a cognizable. That means where arrest is allowed without a warrant. Uh, the person can be arrested without even arrest warrant. So, and it is also non-bailable. But this bill amended that such offenses will be non-cognizable. That means they cannot be arrested without a warrant. They should be there, like they're mandated. It is a non-cognizable offense. Okay, and coming to the appeals, the bill provides that any person any person aggrieved by an adoption order passed by district magistrate, he or she may file an appeal before divisional commissioner within 30 days of such order. And such appeals should be disposed within 4 weeks of the date of filing of the appeal. And previously this provision was not there. In this amendment has brought these appeals as well to give more protection to the children. Okay, now let us know about the challenges associated with the bill. First is the role of child welfare committees. Like many of the people working in child welfare committees do not know their duties at all. Like they're just working, they're not aware of their roles, their duties. What happened is, like previously according to the data, what happened is some people working in child welfare committees, they were giving approval for the adoption, actually, which is not their duty to do so. So this act, it clearly mentioned, it has underlined the duty as this duty should be performed by district magistrate only. So adoption process will be now taken by district magistrate. So that means the child welfare committees were unaware of their roles. And the other thing is performance of state government. The this means state government was an inactive participant with respect to juvenile justice and all, because they actually have to maintain the data and keep checking the facilities and the functions of the childcare institutions in their respective states. But state was not doing, as it was mentioned, it was a uniform, like for the whole country. So it was felt more like a central law than the so hence the state participation was not that much seen. In addition to, first of all, like let's say here state participation was very less, and in addition to that, and in addition to it, this bill, what it has done is it has centralized all the powers. Like with respect to children rehabilitation, it has made the sole authority was given to district magistrate, which may lead to delay, obviously. Like it counters the main purpose of the amending this act. It was created, why was it created? To for the speedy trials, right? But if the whole authority is given to the district magistrate, it will obviously delay in the justice. So, and it may even have wider consequences on child welfare. So, and the other consequence, like challenges, this bill puts the entire onus of children's welfare on district magistrates, and ignoring the fact that the district magistrates are already overburdened authorities with the charge of the entire district and other multifarious duties. Like it's like filling the gap of their free time as well. Anything overloaded will not function properly, right? The same thing is happening here. District magistrates will be the whole in charge of the district. They have a lot of things to take care of. In addition, this responsibility was also given to the district magistrates itself, so which might lead to governance related issues. So Also the cause of concern is the DMs, that is the district magistrates, are generalized candidates. See, we know, see, they will be having the knowledge of relating to all aspects. They will be having knowledge, but they're not physically trained, right? So these generalized candidates with no particular training in monitoring the children is literally difficult task for them. It takes time to know what is happening in the ground root. So this is a burden on district magistrates. So uh, moving to the way forward, first is child guidance clinics should be implemented. These clinics, what would be their function is, they guide the neglected children to make them feel better in psychological terms. So basically this is the need of the children in the rehabilitation centers. If they're not working properly, at least child guidance clinic should be there to take care of such things. And also educating the families is much important, spreading awareness is a key for effective results, right? So as we saw the statistics, where the children in conflict with law were mostly from poor families, or to be precise, from slums. To stop the trafficking of children, educating the family members is the need of the hour, along with the improvement of the social environment. Also, aftercare system should be developed. That means the child should not be ignored after his rehabilitation. That means after the rehabilitation, like it happens in the most of the cases, that the society feels that this person has come from the rehabilitation center, he was once a criminal, like that. So that should be avoided, because he has went to the rehabilitation center, he is changed. So the same utmost care should be given even after the rehabilitation. So this was the way forward for the bill. And now moving on to the prelims question. This is a previous year question which was asked in 2015. So 2016, I guess, which was relating to this topic as well. So I have bought it. So let's see. If you see the statement one, a bill pending in the Lok Sabha lapses on its propagation. Okay. And the second statement is, a bill pending in the Rajya Sabha which has not passed in the Lok Sabha shall not lapse on dissolution of the Lok Sabha. See, it is. I have told you that this topic can be related in polity, and they can ask you related to the amendments, bills, or any acts of the Constitution. So this is the case. Okay. So let us see. See, the answer is two. Let me explain. This is because this is a very simple question. See, no bill lapses on its propagation. Okay. Otherwise, GST bill would have lapsed so many times, isn't it? Yeah. And the bill pending in Rajya Sabha, I mean, I'm referring to the statement two, the bill pending in Rajya Sabha and not passed in Lok Sabha. What does it mean? It means the bill has originated in Rajya Sabha itself and is still pending in the Rajya Sabha itself. Okay. And there will not be any lapse, because a new bill can still be like a new decision can be taken in Lok Sabha. Okay, so even after the passage of the bill in Rajya Sabha. So hence here only the second statement is true. Okay, now moving to the next question. The second question is, which of the following statements is or correct? Okay. Petty crimes are those offences for which punishment under any law is imprisonment between 3 to 7 years. True. Okay. And as I've told, the example of petty crimes is theft. And the second statement is, for serious offences, maximum punishment is imprisonment of only 7 years. Okay. Here, as I've already mentioned, this is an area of confusion. So there might be a question. So this is a expected question. Okay. So here only is shaded in another color. This is like, obviously examiner will not do this in exam. Here I have done it to let you know the importance of these extreme statements like only, all, or never, etc., etc. See, whenever this comes, all your attention should be on that particular words. See, because in most of the cases, such kind of statements would be wrong. Hence, okay, to know what is the answer is, um, as we have seen already in the provision of this bill, that offences whose maximum punishment is more than 7 years. See, obviously there was nowhere mentioned in the IPC or any other law that punishment for any offense is imprisonment of only 7 years, or only, see, the punishment is not fixed at all. It is given between it is a period of time, not a particular time. See, from 3 to 7 years, or 7 years and above, or up to 14 years, like that. It would be mentioned in that way, but it would never be mentioned in the particular years. For these years, he would be punished and all. And as it was mentioned in the bill, more than 7 years is referred to as a serious offense. Hence, only statement one is true, and the second statement is false. So basically, it is an exchange statement. So you should be very careful before answering such questions. So now coming to the main questions. The first question is: Juvenile Justice Care and Protection for Children Amendment Bill 2021 provides additional responsibilities to district magistrates. Critically examine the statement. Okay. Critically examine the statement means to list out the challenges. He's asking you this statement, this is the thing, and now you list out the challenges. So here what we should do is, first thing is we should mention about the overburdening of the district magistrates. Also, we should give some way forward, like we should mention some possible ways to overcome that challenges. Okay. And introduce your answer with this recent amendment that would give you the edge over others. Moving on to the second question: juvenile justice care and protection. Wait, how can role of child care institutions be strengthened in India for development relating to children's care and protection? Discuss throwing light on major constraints. Okay, so here in this, the challenges of childcare institutions should be discussed, because he asked you to mention about the major constraints, right? We have seen there are many challenges of the childcare institutions. So mentioning all of them, and including the data which is given by the National Crime Investigation Bureau, which actually makes your answer look beautiful, because not everyone writes data, and you should be at least kind of better in performing with while coming with mains answers. So mentioning the data would be better. And so that's it for today. Thank you, everyone.